Natalie Nunn showed up to the Cam Newton podcast and flipped the patriarchy on its head. And I am here for it. Let's talk about it in today's Real Talk video. Okay, so I watched the Cam Newton and Natalie Nunn interview, and I thought it quite fascinating. It was truly a masterclass in dominating the patriarchy and what to do when someone tries to play in your face. Baddie style. Clock it.
It'll be Cam Newton and son, Mr. Boogie the All here with another episode of Fucking Friday. Man.
You know what we do on Fridays, right? Baddie shot o'clock.
This person really don't need no introduction, ladies and gentlemen, because calling all baddies to the front.
Let's start by introducing myself. My name is Meagan Dawnavette, and I am a wellness practitioner, a cultural critic, and a researcher of Black women's sexual exploitation in entertainment. So I've written a master's thesis specifically around patriarchy and the way that the patriarchy commodifies Black women's body and production, and then punishes Black women when we attempt to flip the patriarchy on its head. In addition to critiquing pop culture instances that impact or affect Black women's representation, I provide a framework that encourages Black women to love themselves better. That is the solution. It's called Love Meditations. Let's dive into the meat and the potatoes. Cam Newton is one of the sports geniuses who has a podcast. I'm not totally ignorant to Cam's touching into pop culture. Like, I've known Cam from the blogs. Cam is a ladies' man. And on this podcast, he has people within entertainment to ask them questions. He is a man that has a microphone in the podcast sphere. I know he's not a journalist. And this was very evident in this particular episode.
I'm a baddie. So right away you think, okay, she's outside, she's always turned up, she's lit, she's fun.
Natalie Nunn is a reality legend. She's in my top 10, honestly, because of her transition from introductory star on Bad Girls Club back in the early 2000s to ultra producer, creator, and brand ambassador, face, if you will, of the Baddies, which is an entire force and marketing machine that lives primarily on the Zeus network. Even if you don't agree with Natalie's media execution or the actual product, we can all agree that the data speaks for itself. Baddies commands over 15 million viewers every Sunday on a subscription network. Cam was not ready for what Natalie had to bring. Cam tried his very best to enforce his patriarchal, condescending, and machismo, if you will, to break Natalie. Natalie Nunn surveyed the room. She came in, albeit she did have a few drinks. She admitted to that. But she was open, and she shared with Cam she was very excited. She doesn't normally do these podcasts. Natalie asks Cam, so, have you ever seen an episode of Baddies? And he sits back confident in his reply that he had seen not a single episode, didn't know anything about her career. That let Natalie know immediately that she was in an unsafe space. Ding, ding, let's play.
Do you watch Baddies? Is there anyone on Baddies that you'd fuck? Or you think's cute? No, for real, I just want to know.
Yeah, I think...
Am I? Mm-hmm. Yeah, your team was like, I hear,
Yeah, they can...
Quiet on the set!
They can respond.
I asked you, do you watch Baddies?
No, I do not.
Have you seen clips of Baddies? What do you think Baddies is?
Baddies is a women empowerment platform.
Good job. Ooh, I love Cam. He's such a sweet guy.
That teaches women to be confident.
Oh my God. You're ChatGPT. We finally get to meet Chat.
She was about to be disrespected even further if she was to allow him to control the narrative, as only patriarchy does. So what does Natalie do instead? She surveyed the room, she clocked it, as the baddies say, and she decides to flip the interview on its head. Let's back up and tell you a little bit more about Baddies. Here's what Cam should have known. Baddies is on its third year, we've got 4 different franchises. They travel across the nation and now the globe. We even have a Baddies Africa. The structure of the business model is quite fascinating, if you ask me. I'm fascinated with pimp culture. So it's Iceberg Slim meets Hugh Hefner meets your NBC head, because they are taking over like DJ Khaled, right? So you may not agree with the product, but the model is steeped in economic exploitation of those that have lower education, opportunity, self-esteem, and are pretty much pulled from vulnerable situations and exploited on their bad behavior. The women are paid, so they're given opportunities to do other things. But there's also whispers that there may be adjacent to, like most things in America and capitalism and patriarchy, sex work. When Cam Newton invited Natalie Nunn onto his podcast, his sole intention was to control the narrative. Let's be clear. Cam was thinking that he was going to punish her, make her feel a type of way for being a leader on the Zeus network, exploiting Black women, fighting, which is what Baddies is known for.
I don't understand. What is a baddie?
I mean, a baddie is a lot of things. But in my true definition of a baddie, a boss. The boss. This is as simple as that.
Simple as that.
Yeah, like you running the show, you running it, you the boss. People respect you as the boss. People see you as the boss. People know you're the boss.
What's the biggest misconception of a baddie?
That all we do is fight.
Cam Newton was there to audit Natalie's morality, if you will. And that is what patriarchy does. It sits in its hypocrisy and tries to play moral police in order to better control the narrative and control the outcome of the situation. Natalie was having none of that. It was very difficult for him to play moral police when she knew more about him than he knew about his subject, right? This is where the masterclass gets juicy. Once Natalie realized that the patriarchy was in the room and she decides to play ball. Oh, and she also asks for another cup because she's a baddie. She was there to ruin, and that's what she said she was going to do. A baddie essentially utilizes her beauty, sexual prowess, and the fact that she can command attention to generate income in as many ways as possible. She commands respect and power by any means necessary, often through violence. All things that these men in patriarchy totally understand. They only lead with their wallet. If you take that away from them, what do these men have to offer? Don't worry, I'll wait. Blink, blink. Not all men, but the men that choose to be misogynists, essentially all that they have is their power, violent threat, their money, and control. And trying to humble you or put you in your place by policing your behavior, respectability, politics. My plot of the hot girl framework hypothesizes and analyzes that sexual exploitation within the entertainment industry, it's steeped in patriarchal ruling. And under this framework, we can analyze how it works to exploit Black women's bodies in particular. Black women are at the bottom of the totem pole, the bodies that get to be commodified across the globe. Patriarchal ruling, or the men that create these industries, do in fact have to utilize women's exploitation in order to keep these systems in motion. Most times it is by coercion or force, but there's also the portion that depends on our agency in order to perpetuate these systems. And we can see this at play in the music industry, to streaming and reality television, music videos, which now are morphed into social media or avenues like OnlyFans. All of those high profiting systems depend on the exploitation of Black women's bodies. Patriarchy, or the men involved in the systems, always profit. They are in the leadership roles. They are the heads of these systems. And even though Black women can gain entry, they'll never make the same amount of profit as the powers that originally orchestrated and make sure that they are the ultimate capital, because that is the pimping. Men punish these women participating, but it's not by accident. You know what I'm saying? It's by the structure. We can learn this from Bell Hooks and Patricia Hill Collins. The exploitation is the point and the root of all patriarchy. It's at the root of white supremacy. When men or patriarchal systems control exploitation, it's labeled as just the way things go. Boys will be boys. This is the system. Get in where you fit in. This is pimping, baby. Iceberg Slim, right? Black women are at the bottom of the totem pole, the bodies that get to be commodified across the globe. Other races and nationalities are able to come into these systems, mimic the example set by patriarchal or white supremacist ruling, and they're successful in mimicking the anti-Black behavior, which is to further exploit in that very same manner. More women are gaining access to capital within these systems that were designed to oppress and exploit them. They're choosing to either exploit themselves or control other women in the same manner that the men were. When women choose to capitalize on these same systems, women decide to utilize their agency. The patriarchal systems deem it problematic and decide immediately that these women must be humbled. They must be oppressed. We have to get them out of here. Cannot have that. So this is really triggering because the women are cutting out these men in the process. Patriarchy doesn't care about the exploitation. Patriarchy is more concerned about the control and return on its investment. This is why Cam is big mad. We can show and prove in examples like Natalie that women have the potential to gain access to revenue and play the game like a man. You don't need a man's guidance. You don't need a man's financial support. And you don't need a man's permission to navigate. Men like Cam Newton in this interview will present themselves as the moral police in order to pretend to exert some sort of concern or interest in how you're gaining access into the patriarchal systems, but they don't care. They're interested in shutting you down, minimizing your position, dehumanizing or devaluing your access, ladies, because that's the antithesis of the patriarchy. They're participants, but they're frustrated because they're not the ones profiting or controlling. Patriarchy's framework depends on women or those that are not in power needing men or those that are in power to succeed. And once you take that away, they are crushed. So they need that validation. They need a respectability performance. They need you to validate the narrative that they're trying to control. And they need you to feel a certain way so you can stay in a lower position. So they'll either try to get you to apologize for your decisions or seek permission and police your behavior. Respectability. Be very careful about respectability politics, because anything outside of those outlines, those characteristics, absolutely threatens the system of patriarchy, and they can't have that. That's how we keep the system rolling. If women can succeed without being respectable, what does that say about the system? If they can refuse male authority and still thrive, what does that say about the system? If Natalie Nunn can walk up to your set, sit down and say, "Hey, I'm Natalie Nunn and this is my Freaky Friday, and this is my guest Cam Newton," what? And then proceed to take over for 2 hours, commandeer your interview. What does that say about your system? Cam was inflamed. We can fast forward through several portions of the interview because it was not journalism's finest exchange, if you will. But Natalie came to play. Every time Cam kept trying to embarrass her, she kept flipping it on Cam's head. It's pimping. Right? It's exploitation. That's what keeps them frustrated. That's what makes them big mad. It makes them have to potentially take a look at themselves and why they've built their framework on something that can now dismantle by a woman knowing her worth. These men are really frustrated that the women are figuring out the game. Men in patriarchy only understand revenue, control, power, and violence. Basic understandings. In the patriarchal world. In Natalie's example, I'm not suggesting that she's the moral police either, but knowing their worth enough to know that they too can command capital and navigate in patriarchal spaces if they so choose, like a man. Natalie wanted to bring back the Bad Girls Club brand because she knew that there was an audience there. There was a demographic that wanted to see women behaving badly / becoming hustlers. She conceived Baddies, essentially a modernized Bad Girls Club, partnered with one of her show castmates from the early 2000s, Tanisha. We knew her from Beating the Pans. Get up! We all love Tanisha. The two ladies brought the idea to Lemmy, who runs Zeus. Lemmy greenlights it. Of course, women behaving badly, pimping, exploit more women. Going back to my initial point, there's always a man at the head of the patriarchal system. Typically, there is a man always at the massterhead. So Lemmy is sitting currently at the top of Zeus, right? Like it or not, you cannot deny Natalie is a media mogul, and the numbers absolutely pair up to the millions that watch. Natalie's parlayed this into national tours, reunions. Now they're Baddies, a marijuana strand, Baddies booking agency, Baddies music, and Natalie is now a rapper and puts on other musical artists. It's a whole thing. Sir, Cam Newton. When women are in control of their own body, of their own volition, and they decide to capitalize on it, whether or not you agree with how it's done, is that not the same thing that you're often attracted to or that you would be trying to do to other women in sex work industry? And as to prove her point, Natalie doubled down with several examples that she knew exactly who Cam Newton is, as far as being a hypocritical, judgmental interviewer who was underestimating his interviewee. She let Cam Newton know that she has seen him in the clubs all the way back in the day, surrounded by strippers and ladies of the night. Cam Newton also tries to flip it on Natalie and suggest that her moral character is off because she is on a show that showcases Black women and women of color behaving badly, essentially fighting. And how does that make her feel? And she masterfully hits him with but you fought the mascot.
People know you're the boss. You know.
What's the biggest misconception of a baddie?
That all we do is fight. That's insane. We do fight. Everybody fights.
Really?
Yeah, you fight too. I saw you fighting that mascot. So everybody fights, but that's not come on, that's not the only thing.
I wasn't fighting the mascot. It was like...
No, but you swung on the mascot. I died.
Swung it on the mascot?
I want to cast you on Bad Boys for real when you did that. I say, oh my God, I love that.
You weren't supposed to see that.
But I seen it, because everybody's seen it. It's like the most viral thing. Like, are you kidding?
What's the male version of a baddie?
Like, the mascot hit your hat, and then you
saw that?
Yes.
But I'm saying, like, what's the male version?
That's a bad boy. That's
bad boy.
Right there. You was not playing about that hat.
No. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Then proceeds to ask him for about 3 minutes, did you ever get in a fight, Cam? Have you ever been in a fight, Cam? Now, I don't know much about the sports, but I'm from Atlanta. And I do know that Cam Newton is from the Southwest side. I'm sure Cam can knock out about 4-5 men at the same time. Cam is a big man. Cam in the sports, these men are big black bucks. I'm pretty sure that Natalie knew exactly what she was asking when she was digging into him. Cam tried another time to insinuate that Natalie was unfaithful to her husband, which really incites Natalie. Wow. Because the truth is, Natalie has been married for almost 16 years. The two are still together, and they share one child. And that is known all over the internet and to be respected because it is what it is. And for him to sit across from her and try to insinuate that she is anything less than that was quite audacious. She let Cam Newton know that she is very familiar with the fact that he is a father of 9 children, I think 3 different baby mamas, and is not married. So making a separate career of creating severed homes. I was glad that she spit that right back at his face. He tried to ask her, how do you live with the fact that you behave badly during your career? And how is your home life? What is home like? Again, trying to play moral police and respectability politics, attacking her mothering. No one should really judge that. But bottom line, Natalie snips right back. My child is homeschooled, and I don't really get into the screaming and yelling at my home. I try to keep that completely out of my house. Now, whether or not that's true, the fact that her PR response is, I can compartmentalize between the characters that I play on television and the fact that I am a mother and a wife first was an excellent answer. And he really should have stopped there. But of course, Cam doesn't.
Do you have any quarrel or beef with Jocelyn?
No. Just that I came to Zeus and I'm the #1 show. And originally, she felt like she was the number one.
But she's not the number one. Not no more since you've been there. Okay.
No. Baddies is number one.
Baddies.
And I would be mad too, though.
So she's mad.
Cam, did you ever go to the Super Bowl? I don't. No, I'm not. Guys, I swear, is that, no, I was about to ask you something though, for real. Like number one, number two, I was gonna get to sports.
I did.
You did? Yeah. Did you win?
No.
How did you feel when you were number two?
Distraught.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I mean, I don't know that feeling. I mean, I'm number one, baby, but thank you. But that's how she feels. Really? How did you feel? Like, get into that moment for me so I could understand her maybe and be more sympathetic towards her. Because right now I'm like, bitch, I don't give a fuck, bitch. I'm number one, ho.
Let's just say...
like when you were the champion, like, I got the ring, bitch. And then the confetti falls down on you, like, ah!
How'd you get all the way to the finish line and fumble? You didn't get the confetti? Oh my gosh, it was brilliant. He just looked so sad. He kept smoking on his cigar, so you could see that he was visibly agitated. And Natalie kept drinking her alcohol, unbothered, getting louder and more comfortable, more and more unhinged. Natalie, whether or not you like her, she did what she said she was going to do, which was get Cam up to 2 million views because she's a baddie. You can tell that she's seasoned as far as how to work with press, trying to humble their guests or incite a reaction, not really caring to get to the root motivation behind their success or positioning. So whether or not you enjoy the content, which we can discuss in an entirely different video because I'm fascinated, I would never have sat across from Natalie Nunn and be ill-prepared. For example, if I had talked to Natalie Nunn, I would have asked more about the comfortability behind the sexual exploitation operating in a man's patriarchal system, because that's got to weigh on her conscience. How does she wrestle with her anti-Black history that is now on camera? There's several instances of Natalie in the early 2000s making very anti-Black sentiments, yet she allegedly has a Black father and a Puerto Rican mother, and the fact that she's now working with young Black women, essentially pimping them out on television. I would also want to know more about Natalie's business acumen and how she stays firm in her vision, demanding her rates and controlling the brand, her narrative, spreading herself out. It's quite impressive. She is a mogul, capitalizing on the moment and impacting so many women. I'm not saying that everybody needs to watch it, but this was a masterclass, a takedown of a patriarchal jerk man who tried to humble a woman in this interview. And Cam Newton lost bigly to Natalie Nunn. Baddies, clock it. I would love to further discuss in another video how Baddies is impacting cultural society while utilizing Black bodies. I'd love to discuss how these patriarchal systems are harmful specifically to Black women's bodies of all ages, and how participation or adjacent participation without challenging these systems is always going to be a trap. It's always going to be a cul-de-sac of failure for Black women in the end, because we are never able to control our own narratives. But more to come in another video. So did you watch? Are you familiar with Cam Newton's interview style? Do you think, like I do, that he's not really favorable towards Black women or women of color or just women, period? Again, I'm also only familiar with Cam podcast style because of Dr. Cheyenne. A whole nother video. Let me know if you want me to talk about that. I got the feeling that he was very condescending, genuinely, and he had just met his match. I want you to remember, ladies, that you deserve all of it. Prioritize your health and wellness and decenter the patriarchy. I've got the tools and resources for you. Check me out at youdeservewellness.com. I'll see you in the next Real Talk video. Thank you for watching. Bye.